In the summer of 1944, the jungles of northeast India became the stage for one of the most extraordinary yet forgotten battles of World War II. A battle where courage, desperation, and sheer survival would define the fate of thousands. Most of the world remembers Normandy, Stalingrad, Midway. Few remember Kohima and Imphal. Yet these battles were pivotal, a decisive turning point in the Burma Campaign. Japan, at the height of its power, believed it could invade India and topple the British Empire from within. Their plan, Operation Yugo, aimed to seize Imphal, cut Allied supply lines, and incite rebellion in the subcontinent. The defenders were a mix of British and Indian troops, seasoned Gurkhas, and local volunteers. Outnumbered, they faced impossible odds, but retreat was not an option. And then came the monsoon. The rains turned the jungle into a quagmire. Mud swallowed boots. Rivers became raging torrents. Supply lines snapped. Disease spread faster than bull. Japanese forces moved with terrifying efficiency. They were disciplined, relentless, and willing to endure extreme hardship. Marching through waist-deep mud, under relentless monsoon rain, they pressed forward with a single-minded goal: capture Imphal. They believed their training and morale would secure victory. But the jungle has its own rules. It doesn't bend to strategy, rank, or valor. Every step was a struggle. Every campsite is a potential trap. And soon, the soldiers would learn that starvation and disease were deadlier than enemy fire. Imphal was more than a town. It was the linchpin of the British defense in India. Lose it, and the Japanese could sweep across the region unopposed. The Allied forces fortified every hill, every ridge, every choke point. Soldiers dug trenches in mud and clay. Supplies were airdropped from distant bases. Every decision mattered. Every mistake could be fatal. And when the Japanese arrived, the fighting turned desperate. Skirmishes erupted in the jungle, where visibility was limited, and the enemy could appear from any shadow. By March 1944, Japanese troops clashed with Allied defenders at the outskirts of Imphal. The first waves were probing attacks, testing defenses, measuring morale. But soon, full assaults began. Infantry pushed through jungle trails, attempting to encircle the town. Yet the defenders held. Every ridge, every hilltop, every ridgeline became a battlefield. Allies knew that retreat meant annihilation, and the jungle itself became a silent participant. Footing was treacherous. Disease spread among exhausted troops. Supply lines were tenuous. Every advance demanded supreme effort, courage, and endurance. Few locations symbolize the courage of the defenders more than Kohima's tennis court. It was here that British and Indian troops held a ridge with only determination and shovels, rifles, and grit. Japanese forces attacked relentlessly, aiming to break the Allied line. Hand-to-hand combat, artillery, and sniper fire turned the area into a scene of unrelenting tension. The defenders' resilience was legendary. Every soldier knew that if Kohima fell, Imphal would be next. And if Imphal fell, the Japanese could invade India. This was not just a battle of tactics. It was a battle of wills. The monsoon was a relentless enemy. It turned roads to rivers, streams to torrents, and hills to sliding mud traps. Soldiers marched for miles in waterlogged boots, ration packs ruined, guns slick with mud. Disease struck fast. Dysentery, malaria, and exhaustion claimed as many lives as bullets. Both sides suffered equally, and both learned that survival in the jungle demanded more than courage. Every movement was costly. Every rest was fleeting. And yet, the soldiers fought on, because failure was unthinkable. As April 1944 dawned, the Japanese advance was beginning to falter. The monsoon rains had become their enemy. Roads vanished under mud. Rivers, swollen and fast, cut off their supply lines. A force that had once seemed unstoppable was now vulnerable, starving, exhausted, and increasingly isolated. The Japanese had gambled everything on speed and surprise. But speed slowed. Surprise vanished. The Allies, despite being outnumbered, had a secret advantage: air supply. Food, ammunition, and medicine were flown in from distant bases, often through thunderous monsoon storms. Pilots risked their lives, landing on small, makeshift airstrips. Meanwhile, Japanese soldiers scavenged. They ate what they could carry and what the jungle reluctantly provided. But malnutrition, disease, and fatigue gnawed at their morale. Among the defenders, the Gurkhas became legendary. Armed with their kukris and unmatched jungle combat skills, they led counterattacks that broke Japanese momentum. Indian troops, too, demonstrated extraordinary courage. Despite hunger, fatigue, and disease, they held positions, repelled assaults, and maintained communication under impossible conditions. Their actions turned what could have been a catastrophe into a symbol of endurance and defiance. Amid the chaos, ordinary soldiers became legends. Gurkha units scaled cliffs under fire, repelling larger Japanese squads. Indian infantry held crucial supply points despite exhaustion. Engineers repaired destroyed paths, ensuring resupply despite torrential rain. Air supply was the silent hero of Imphal and Kohima. Planes delivered food, ammunition, and medicine when ground routes were impassable. These were not stories of glory, but survival. Every small act, carrying a wounded comrade, holding a hill for one more day, led to victory. By mid-April, the battle lines at Kohima and Imphal had hardened. The Japanese were desperate. Their supply lines were severed and morale was crumbling. The Allies, however, were learning how to fight the jungle, how to leverage every ridge, every tree, every river. Lieutenant General William Slim, commander of the 14th Army, emerged as a decisive figure. Slim understood that conventional strategies would fail in the jungle. He emphasized flexibility, mobility, and air supply, daring moves that would frustrate the Japanese advance. Slim's strategy was simple yet effective. Hold key positions, stretch Japanese supply lines, and let the jungle and monsoon do the rest. Every hill and ridge mattered. The Japanese attempted to take the Naga Hills, a position vital for artillery observation and controlling access to Imphal. Allied troops dug in despite hunger and exhaustion. Rain battered them, mud consumed their boots, yet every inch of soil held was a victory. The intensity of these engagements created small micro-dramas across the battlefield, each soldier's courage a thread in the larger story. By late April, the Allies were ready to strike back. With Japanese supply lines crippled and their troops exhausted, counterattacks were launched. The battles were savage, fought in narrow jungle paths, across ridges, and through torrential rain. Every hill recaptured meant lives saved. Every ridge held meant the enemy's failure. Gradually, the Japanese offensive stalled. Imphal and Kohima held. The monsoon, Allied resilience, and strategic air supply had turned the tide. By May 1944, the Japanese were in full retreat. Thousands of troops had died from starvation, disease, or combat. What had once been a bold, coordinated offensive became a desperate flight. Imphal and Kohima had survived. Against the odds, against nature, against exhaustion. These battles would go down in history as some of the most important yet forgotten turning points of World War II. Despite its strategic importance, Kohima and Imphal are rarely mentioned in mainstream history. Western media focused on European theaters. Political narratives downplayed India's role. And yet, these battles stopped the Japanese advance into India. The courage displayed, the sacrifices made, and the resilience shown by the defenders saved India and shifted the course of the Burma Campaign. Today, Kohima and Imphal are remembered by historians and descendants. Their lessons endure: courage under adversity, strategy in impossible conditions, and the resilience of ordinary people under extraordinary circumstances. Though the world may have forgotten, the battles of Kohima and Imphal stand as monuments to human endurance, tactical brilliance, and the quiet, unrecognized turning points of history. If this story moved you, take a moment to honor these unsung heroes. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's forgotten moments. Share this video with someone who loves stories of courage, strategy, and human endurance. And remember, sometimes the most decisive battles are the ones the world forgets. Kohima and Imphal will never be forgotten here.